The crystal towers of Lyria shimmered under the light of their dying star. The once blue giant now glowed an angry red, casting long shadows across the planet's surface. Elder Vizin stood at the observation deck, his crystalline body reflecting the ominous light as he watched another atmospheric shield fail in the distance. "How much time do we have?" he asked, his voice a melodious chime that echoed in the chamber. Arden, the communication specialist, approached with a slow, deliberate gait. Her crystal form was smaller than Vizin's, with delicate patterns that marked her as young among their kind. "The shields will completely fail in 37 days, she said, "unless the Council sends help." Vizin's body dimmed slightly, a sign of deep sadness among the Lyrians. "And has the Council responded to our latest plea?" Arden hesitated. "Nothing. Official, Elder. Only silence." Outside, the world they had known for tens of thousands of years was dying. The Lyrians had evolved on this planet, their bodies made of living crystal that stored and processed information like biological computers. They had built a peaceful civilization, one that valued knowledge and harmony above all else. But they had never developed the technology to leave their world. When their scientists discovered their star was destabilizing, they had immediately reached out to the Galactic Council for aid. That was 3 years ago. "I will try again," Vizin said, moving toward the communication chamber. His crystal body made a soft chiming sound as he walked, a sound that had once been common in Lyrian cities but was now rare, as many had entered hibernation to conserve energy. The communication chamber was a vast dome of amplifying crystals, designed to boost signals across the stars. Vizin positioned himself in the center and began to glow from within, transmitting his thoughts directly into the galactic network. "This is Elder Vizin of Lyria. Our situation grows dire. Our star will soon undergo catastrophic changes that will render our world uninhabitable. We request immediate evacuation assistance. The Lyrian people have much to offer the galaxy in knowledge and art. Please respond." The message went out, traveling at speeds beyond light itself through the channels established by the Council's advanced technology. Vizin waited as he had waited hundreds of times before for a response. None came. What Vizin didn't know was that at that very moment, his message was being received. Not by the Council, who had long since set their systems to automatically archive Lyrian distress signals, but by a small station at the edge of Council space. The station was Council property, but was manned by a single representative who had been effectively exiled there. Zethial had once been a respected diplomat but had been sent to this remote posting after questioning too many Council decisions. Now his job was to monitor signals from non-priority sectors. Zethial's scaled face frowned as he listened to Vizin's message. He had heard these pleas for years and had forwarded them all to the Council. He knew what happened to them. They were discussed in closed sessions, evaluated for cost-benefit analysis, and ultimately rejected. The Lyrians, with their crystalline biology, had been deemed evolutionarily redundant by the Council's scientific committee. Similar information storage capabilities had evolved in 3 other species, all of which had more advanced technology and were already Council members. The resources required to save Lyria would be better spent elsewhere, according to the mathematical models the Council used to make decisions. Sethal had been there when the final decision was made. "The universe is vast and resources finite," High Counselor Kythera had said. "We cannot save everyone. The strong survive, the weak perish. This is the natural order." No one had argued, no one except Zethal, which was why he now sat alone at this distant station. With a heavy heart, he recorded a message and sent it directly to Vizin, bypassing official channels. It was against protocol, but he couldn't bear the thought of the Lyrians waiting for help that would never come. Back on Lyria, Vizin was leaving the communication chamber when Arden rushed in, her crystal form pulsing with excitement. "Elder, we have received a response," she said. "It's marked as private, addressed only to you." Vizin's form brightened with hope as he returned to the center of the chamber. "Display the message." A holographic image of Zethal appeared. The Council representative looked tired, his scales dull with age and stress. Elder Vizin of Lyria, Zethal began. I send this message unofficially. The Council has received all your distress calls. They have discussed your situation and have decided not to intervene. They deem the rescue of your species as resource inefficient. I'm sorry. No official ships will come. The alien paused, looking away briefly. This will be my only communication. I risk much by sending this. Prepare your people as best you can. The message ended, and the hologram faded. Vizin stood motionless, his crystal form now dim and dark. Elder? Arden's voice was small. What shall I tell the others? Vizin turned slowly. Tell them. Tell them we continue to wait for the Council's response. I will not spread despair until all hope is truly gone. Arden nodded and left, her steps heavy. Vizin remained alone in the chamber, watching as the angry red light of their dying star filtered through the dome. Later that night, after the city had dimmed for rest cycle, Arden could not enter hibernation. She returned to her post at the communication array, scanning all frequencies out of habit and desperation. It was then that she noticed something strange, a signal pattern she had never seen before, coming from a direction far from Council, space. The pattern didn't match any known species in their database. It was simple, almost crude by Council standards, but it was deliberately moving toward the Lyrian emergency frequency. Someone was trying to find their signal, to lock onto it. Arden adjusted the array, strengthening the connection. Suddenly, clear words came through in a language the translator struggled with, but eventually rendered. To the people of the planet sending distress signals. This is Captain Olivia Nash of the Earth vessel Horizon. We have received your calls for help. We are not members of your Galactic Council, but we want to assist. Please respond with coordinates and the nature of your emergency. We are coming. Arden's crystal body lit up with a brightness not seen in years. She immediately began to compose a response, her fingers dancing across the controls. This is Arden of Lyria, she transmitted. Our star is dying. Our people need evacuation. The Council has abandoned us. Who are humans? The response came quickly, as if the sender had been waiting eagerly. We're from a planet called Earth. We're new to space travel compared to others. The Council rejected our membership applications. 3 times said we were too unpredictable. There was a pause. But we're good at helping when others are in trouble. Send us your coordinates. We're coming to get you out. Arden hesitated only a moment before sending Lyria's location. She didn't alert Vizin or anyone else. If this was false hope, she would bear the blame alone. The last thing the message from Earth said was, "Hold on, you're not alone anymore." For the first time in years, Arden allowed her crystal form to shine with genuine hope. Captain Olivia Nash stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching as the red giant star grew larger on the main screen. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and deep lines marked her face from years of difficult decisions. This mission was perhaps her most important yet. How much longer until we reach Lyria? She asked. Navigation Officer Ben Lewis checked his instruments. 3 hours, Captain. The star's radiation is making our sensors act up, but we should be able to establish a stable orbit. Olivia nodded. Alert all departments. I want everyone ready for first contact procedures. The Horizon was Earth's newest long-range vessel, built for exploration and diplomacy. It wasn't designed for large-scale evacuation, but it was all Earth could send on short notice. When the strange distress calls had been picked up by Earth's deep space array, the decision to respond had been made quickly. Humans might be new to interstellar travel, but they understood what it meant to need help. Officer Kyle Garcia, the ship's communications expert, approached the captain. He was younger than most of the crew, with kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. Captain, I've been studying the language patterns from the Lyrian transmissions. Their translator technology seems advanced, but there are still cultural concepts that don't convert well. I think I should be part of the first contact team. Agreed, Olivia said. You'll come with me and Chief Engineer Wright. In her quarters, Engineer Susan Wright was reviewing everything they knew about Lyrian physiology. The information was limited, just what they could gather from the brief communications. The Lyrians appeared to be crystalline life forms, something humans had theorized about but never encountered. Fascinating, she muttered to herself while making notes. Their bodies seem to store information like computers, but they're alive, with emotions and culture. How do they reproduce? How do they eat? She had 1,000 questions and hoped she would get answers soon. 3 hours later, the Horizon entered orbit around Lyria. The planet was beautiful from space, covered in structures that reflected light like prisms, creating rainbow patterns across its surface. But even from orbit, they could see the atmospheric disruption caused by the dying star. "Captain, we're being hailed," Kyle said. "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of a crystalline being. Light moved through its transparent body in complex patterns, and when it spoke, its entire form vibrated slightly. "I am Elder Vizon of Lyria. Are you humans?" Olivia stepped forward. "Yes. I'm Captain Olivia Nash of the Earth vessel Horizon. We received your distress calls and came to help." The crystal being's internal lights pulsed rapidly. "The Council told us no one would come. Why would you, strangers from beyond known space, choose to help us?" Kyle, standing beside the captain, recognized the confusion in Vizon's tone. It wasn't just a question of language. There was a fundamental cultural disconnect. "Elder Vizon," Kyle said, stepping forward. "On Earth, we have a principle. When someone calls for help, you respond. It's that simple." Vizon was silent for a moment. "This is not how the galaxy works, young human. Resources are calculated, benefits are weighed, decisions are made with cold logic." "That's not how we work," Olivia said firmly. "We'd like to send a team to meet with you to discuss evacuation options." After a brief hesitation, Vizon agreed. "You may land at the coordinates we're sending. Be warned that our atmosphere is growing unstable. Your visit must be brief." An hour later, Olivia, Kyle, and Susan stood in the transport room, dressed in environmental suits designed to protect them from unknown conditions. The ship's doctor, Frank Morris, was giving them last-minute instructions. "The atmospheric readings show high radiation levels," he said, his voice gruff with concern. "Your suits will protect you, but don't stay longer than 4 hours. And don't touch any Lyrian directly without testing for compatibility first." The transport beam deposited them in a crystal chamber that reminded Susan of being inside a diamond. Everything reflected and refracted light, creating beautiful patterns on the walls and floor. 3 Lyrians waited for them. Vizon stood in the center, taller than the others, with complex patterns running through his crystal form. Beside him was a smaller Lyrian with a faster internal light pulse. "This is Arden," Vizon said, indicating the smaller one. "She was the first to receive your message. And this is Mix, our lead scientist." The third Lyrian bowed slightly. Mix was different from the others. Parts of his crystal body were cloudy rather than clear. "Welcome to Lyria," Vizon said, "though I fear you have arrived only in time to witness our end." Susan stepped forward, her scientific curiosity evident even through her suit. "Elder Vizon, our scans show your star's deterioration is accelerating. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with." Mix moved closer. "Come, I will show you our data." In Mix's laboratory, the humans stared at crystalline displays showing the star's condition. Susan's face grew increasingly concerned as she translated the Lyrian measurements to human terms. "This is worse than we thought," she said quietly to Olivia. "The radiation levels will reach lethal levels for the Lyrians in weeks, not months, as we estimated. Their crystal bodies are particularly vulnerable to this specific type of stellar radiation." Olivia turned to Vizon. "How many Lyrians are there on the planet?" "Approximately 12,000, Vizon replied. "Many have already entered deep hibernation to conserve energy." Kyle did the math quickly. "The Horizon can safely transport maybe 300 in emergency conditions. That's not nearly enough." Olivia's face showed no fear or hesitation, only determination. "Then we need more ships." She activated her communication device. "Horizon, Patch me through to Earth Command. Priority, Alpha. Back on Earth, Admiral Laura Bell received the transmission in the middle of the night. Her gray hair was disheveled, but her mind was sharp as always. Nash, do you know what time it is here? She asked, but there was no real anger in her voice. Admiral, we need every available ship. 12,000 lives are at stake, and we have weeks, not months. Bell listened as Olivia explained the situation. When the captain finished, there was silence for a long moment. You realize what you're asking? Bell finally said. To divert all our ships would leave Earth vulnerable. The Galactic Council has already warned us about interfering in their territory. The Council abandoned these people to die, Olivia said firmly. If we do the same, we're no better than they are. Diplomatic advisor Peter Miller, who had been listening from the side of Bell's office, spoke up. Captain, the Council specifically, warned us against contact with non-member species. This could jeopardize our entire standing in the galactic community. With all due respect, sir, Kyle interjected. What standing? They've rejected our membership application 3 times. They call us primitive and dangerous. Bell rubbed her temples. Miller has a point, Captain. This isn't just about one rescue mission. This could affect Earth's future for generations. Olivia looked around at the Crystal City, at the Lyrians watching her with hope in their shimmering bodies. She thought about what it meant to be human, about the values that had guided Earth through its darkest times. Admiral, she said, her voice steady, if we abandon these people when we have the power to help, what kind of future are we building anyway? There was a long silence from Earth. Finally, Bell sighed. I'll divert every ship we can spare. God help us all if the Council decides to make an example of us. As the transmission ended, Olivia turned to Vizen. More ships are coming. We'll get your people to safety. For the first time, the Elder's crystal body glowed with a warm golden light, the Lyrian expression of hope. 7 days after Captain Nash's call to Earth, the sky above Lyria filled with ships. 47 vessels of various sizes and designs dropped out of faster-than-light travel almost simultaneously. It was the largest fleet Earth had ever assembled, for a single mission. Commander Alan Foster stood on the bridge of the Liberty, the largest of the rescue vessels. At 52, he had seen much in his career, but nothing like this. The Liberty was a converted military transport, hastily refitted, to carry as many refugees as possible. All ships report ready for operations, his first officer said. Alan nodded. Tell them to maintain orbit and await further instructions. I'll take a shuttle down to meet with Captain Nash and assess the situation firsthand. On the surface of Lyria, the arrival of the fleet had caused a wave of emotion among the crystalline people. Many had emerged from hibernation as hope spread through their collective consciousness. Elder Vizen watched the ships appear on the monitoring screens, his crystal body glowing brighter than it had in months. Your people came, he said to Olivia, who stood beside him. You truly came. We said we would, she replied simply. The Horizon had spent the past week setting up a base camp near the main Lyrian city. Chief Medical Officer Denise Carter had been working non-stop with Lyrian scientist Mix to understand the needs of the crystalline beings during space travel. Their bodies are incredibly sensitive to vibration and pressure changes, Denise explained to Olivia. Standard transport conditions would cause them to fracture, possibly fatally. Mix nodded, the cloudy patches in his crystal form shifting, slightly. Our natural environment is very stable. We evolved on a planet with minimal tectonic activity and a consistent atmosphere. Space travel as you know it would destroy us. Denise ran a hand through her short red hair, a habit when she was thinking hard. We need specialized containment units, cushioned, pressure-regulated with minimal vibration transfer. Can we make them? Olivia asked. We'll have to, Denise said, but it means sacrificing parts of our own life support systems. Each ship will have to reduce human support capacity to make room. When Commander Foster's shuttle landed, he found a hive of activity. Humans in environmental suits worked alongside Lyrians, preparing for the evacuation. He spotted Olivia directing a team near a row of half-built structures that looked like crystal cases lined with padding. Captain Nash, he said, extending his hand. Commander Foster, Earth sent me with every ship we could gather. Olivia shook his hand, relief evident on her face. Thank you, Commander. We'll need every one of them. Alan looked around at the busy scene. Brief me on the situation. As they walked, Olivia explained the challenges they faced. The specialized containment units needed for Lyrian transport. The limited time before radiation reached lethal levels. The logistics of moving 12,000 beings who had never been off-planet. And the Council? Alan asked quietly. Any response to our presence here? Nothing yet, Olivia said. But they know we're here. It's only a matter of time. Their conversation was interrupted by Kyle, who jogged up to them, his face serious behind his suit's faceplate. Captain Commander, the Lyrians have detected a ship at the edge of the system. It's not responding to hails, but its energy signature matches Council technology. Alan's expression hardened. So they've sent someone to watch us, more likely to warn us off, Olivia said. We should continue with the evacuation as planned. How many containment units do we have ready? 212, Kyle reported. Dr. Carter says we can complete another 100 by tomorrow. Not fast enough, Alan muttered. At this rate, evacuation will take weeks. Weeks we don't have, Olivia finished his thought. I'll talk to Mix about simplifying the design. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the Crystal City when Susan Wright approached Mix in his laboratory. The engineer had been studying Lyrian technology, fascinated by how they combined crystalline biology with advanced science. Mix, I've been thinking about the containment units, Susan said. What if we used your own stasis technology? The hibernation state many of your people entered. Could we adapt that for transport? Mix's inner lights pulsed faster, a sign of excitement. It might be possible. Hibernation significantly reduces our sensitivity to external conditions, but we would need a way to maintain the stasis field during transit. Show me how it works, Susan said, pulling out her datapad. We might be able to integrate it with our ship's power systems. Across the city, in what served as the Lyrian equivalent of a hospital, Denise Carter was examining Elder Vizen. The leader had been working tirelessly, and his crystal form showed signs of stress, cloudy patches similar to those in Mix's body. You need rest, Elder, Denise said, reading the scanner results. There is no time for rest, Vizen replied. My people need me. Your people need you alive and functioning, Denise countered. This clouding in your crystal structure, what does it mean? Vizen was silent for a moment. It is the beginning of crystalline decay. The radiation from our star is affecting me as it affects all Lyrians. Mix has had it longer. That is why his clouding is more extensive. Denise sat back alarmed. How? Long before it becomes fatal? Days, perhaps. Less for some, more for others. It depends on individual resilience. We need to prioritize evacuation for those showing advanced signs of decay, Denise said, already making notes on her medical pad. The next morning, as the first large group of Lyrians was being prepared for evacuation, a message came through on all communication channels. On the bridge of the Liberty, Commander Foster watched as a council enforcer appeared on screen. The alien was tall and slender, with dark blue skin and multiple eyes arranged in a circle around its head. It wore the distinctive silver uniform of Council authority. I am Enforcer Zekra of the Galactic Council, it said, its translator converting the complex sounds into English. You are engaging in unauthorized interference with a natural extinction event. This violates Council non-interference directives. Cease all evacuation activities immediately. Alan stood straight, his military bearing evident. This is Commander Joseph Wilson of Earth. We are not members of your council and therefore not bound by your directives. These people need help, and we're providing it. This will have consequences for Earth standing in the galactic community, Zekra warned. The council has denied your membership applications for good reason. Your species is unpredictable and does not understand the natural order. If the natural order means leaving intelligent beings to die when they could be saved, then you're right, we don't understand it, Alan replied. Now, unless you're here to help with the evacuation, please maintain your distance from our operation. The council ship fired a warning shot that passed close to one of the smaller human vessels. A research ship called Curiosity. The bright beam of energy lit up space like a lightning bolt. Without hesitation, Dr. Michelle Young, commander of the Curiosity, maneuvered her small vessel between the council warship and the evacuation fleet. Her ship was the smallest in the human fleet, with minimal weapons and defenses. "Council vessel," she transmitted, her voice steady despite the danger. "This is Dr. Michelle Young of the Earth research vessel Curiosity. We are conducting a humanitarian mission. If you want to stop us, you'll have to destroy us first." Through the view screen, Alan and the others on the Liberty's bridge could see the tiny Curiosity, dwarfed by the council ship, holding position like a shield. The council ship didn't fire again. After a tense minute, Zucker's voice came through once more. "This incident will be reported to Council High Command. Expect a formal response." With that, the council ship turned and headed back to the edge of the system, though it didn't leave completely. Alan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Tell Dr. Young she has more courage than sense. And double the evacuation efforts. We may not have much time before they come back with more ships." On Lyria's surface, the first containment units were being loaded onto transport shuttles. Each crystal case held a Lyrian in semi-hibernation, their bodies glowing softly within. Human crew members handled them with extreme care, aware that each case contained a living being whose existence now depended on them. As Olivia supervised the loading, she found herself standing next to Arden, who watched her people being carried away with mixed emotions. "Are you afraid?" Olivia asked. Arden's inner lights flickered in a pattern that the translator interpreted as a sad laugh. "Terrified, but also grateful. Your people are risking much for strangers." "That's what humans do," Olivia said. "At our best, anyway." The first shuttle lifted off, carrying 30 Lyrians to their new future among the stars. The journey back to Earth began with a slow procession of ships leaving Lyrian orbit. 5 days had passed since the confrontation with the council vessel, and nearly half of the Lyrian population was now safely aboard the human fleet. Captain Olivia Nash stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the final shuttles returning from the surface. "Status report," she said to Kyle, who was coordinating the evacuation from his station. "Just over 7,000 Lyrians are now aboard the fleet," he replied. "The last group will be up within 12 hours. We've prioritized those showing advanced signs of crystal decay." Olivia nodded. "And Elder Weizen?" "He insists on being in the last group. Says he won't leave until every one of his people is safe." This didn't surprise Olivia. In the short time she had known the Lyrian leader, she had come to respect his devotion to his people. It reminded her of the best human leaders throughout history, those who put the needs of others before their own. On the Liberty, Commander Alan Foster was dealing with another challenge. The ship's life support systems were strained to the limit, maintaining both human crew quarters and the special conditions needed for the Lyrian containment units. "We need to divert more power to the Lyrian section," Engineer Paul Wilson explained. "Their units are showing temperature fluctuations that could be dangerous." "Where can we take it from?" Alan asked. Paul hesitated. "The only option is crew quarters. We'd have to reduce heat by at least 15 degrees in all human living areas." Alan didn't hesitate. "Do it. Issue thermal blankets to all crew members, and rotate shorter shifts so people can warm up." "Sir, that's below comfort regulations for—" "I know what the regulations say, Wilson. Do it anyway. We didn't come all this way to lose a single Lyrian because we wanted to stay comfortable." Throughout the fleet, similar decisions were being made. Humans gave up comforts, space, and resources to keep their crystalline passengers safe. On the medical ship Mercy, Dr. Denise Carter worked with a team of human and Lyrian healers to treat those suffering from advanced radiation exposure. "The clouding is spreading faster in this one," she said to a Lyrian healer named Lix. They stood over a containment unit holding a young Lyrian, whose once clear body was now nearly half clouded with gray patches. "Yes," Lix agreed, "but see how the core still pulses strongly? There is still hope." Denise nodded and adjusted the unit's settings. "We've found that a specific frequency of light seems to slow the clouding. We're applying it to all the severe cases now." Across the fleet, Unexpected connections formed between humans and Lyrians. On the science vessel Discovery, Elder Vizen had finally been convinced to board, leaving his dying world behind. The ancient Lyrian spent much of his time in the ship's observation deck, watching as his home planet grew smaller in the distance. It was there that communications officer Amy Jackson found him one quiet shift. At 25, Amy was the youngest, senior officer on the Discovery. Her curiosity about the Lyrians had led her to study their language and culture whenever she had free time. "May I join you, Elder?" she asked, approaching carefully. Vizen's crystal form pulsed gently. "Of course, young human. Your company is welcome." Amy sat beside the containment unit, which had been positioned to give Vizen a clear view of space. "Do you miss it already?" she asked, nodding toward the fading image of Lyria. "A home is more than a place," Vizen replied. "It is memories, connections, shared experiences. In that sense, I have not left my home behind. It travels with us in the minds and bodies of my people." Amy considered this. "That's a beautiful way to think about it. Humans often get attached to physical places. And yet you leave your world to explore the stars," Vizen observed. "I guess we're contradictory that way," Amy said with a smile. Their conversation continued for hours, each learning about the other species. Vizen explained how Lyrians stored information within their crystal structures, passing knowledge directly from one generation to the next through a process similar to what humans would call downloading. Amy described Earth's diverse cultures and environments, the constant change and adaptation that defined human history. "Your species embraces change," Vizen noted. "Ours has traditionally feared it. Perhaps that is why the Council found you unsettling. And maybe why they found you dispensable," Amy said, then immediately apologized. "I'm sorry, that was blunt." "But accurate," Vizen said. "The Council values progress and efficiency above all else. A species that resists change does not fit their vision of galactic evolution." Meanwhile, in the quiet depths of space, the fleet received troubling news. Captain Nash and Commander Foster were reviewing intercepted Council communications in the Liberty's secure meeting room. "They've called an emergency session," Olivia said, looking at the decoded message, "to discuss the human interference, as they call it." Alan's face was grim. "Do we know what they're planning?" "Not yet. But whatever it is, it won't be good for Earth. We've directly challenged their authority." Kyle, who had joined them for the meeting, spoke up. "There's something else in these transmissions that's interesting. Look at this section." He highlighted a portion of text on the screen. "They're discussing why humans were kept out of the Council in the first place." Olivia read the section carefully. "It says we were deemed too unpredictable and emotionally driven to be trusted with advanced technology, that our tendency to value individual lives over statistical efficiency makes humans incompatible with rational galactic governance. They rejected us because we care too much," Alan said with a short, humorless laugh. "I can't say I'm surprised." "Sir," Kyle said, "given this information, what do you think will happen when we return to Earth?" Alan and Olivia exchanged looks. "Best case," Alan said, "they issue a formal protest and impose some kind of sanctions. Worst case, they decide to make an example of us," Olivia finished. The journey continued, and as the days passed, resources grew increasingly scarce. Food supplies were carefully rationed, and non-essential systems were shut down to conserve power for the Lyrian containment units. On the transport ship Determination, Captain Richard Hayes faced a difficult decision when power fluctuations threatened the Lyrian section. The ship's engineer gave him two options: redirect power from crew quarters, dropping the temperature to near freezing, or risk unstable conditions for 50 Lyrian passengers. "Redirect the power," Hayes ordered without hesitation. "Issue all cold weather gear to the crew and establish a rotation schedule for warming breaks in the engine room." "Sir," his first officer protested, "the crew can't function effectively in those conditions for more than a few hours." "Then we'll work in shorter shifts," Hayes said firmly. "I'm not losing a single Lyrian on my watch." When a junior officer later asked him why he made that choice, Hayes simply replied, "Because We're human. This is what we do. As the fleet approached the halfway point of their journey, long-range sensors detected something concerning. A council blockade was forming near the edge of the Sol system, Earth's home. Dozens of advanced warships were taking up positions, clearly waiting for the returning human fleet. The news spread quickly and tension filled every ship. The humans had known there might be consequences for their actions, but the reality of facing the Council's military might was sobering. On the Horizon's bridge, Olivia received the reports with a calm face, though inside her stomach twisted with worry. "Send a message to Admiral Bell," she told Kyle. "Tell her we're coming home with guests and we might have company following us." Admiral Laura Bell stood in Earth's Orbital Defense Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching Galactic Council fleet. Her silver hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and deep lines creased her face as she studied the tactical situation. "How many ships?" she asked her second-in-command. 23 Council vessels, Admiral. All heavily armed." Bell nodded. She had expected this. When she made the decision to send Earth's ships to rescue the Lyrians, she knew there would be consequences. Now they had arrived, and our own fleet. The rescue fleet will arrive in approximately 12 hours. All remaining Earth defense vessels are in position, but the officer hesitated. "But we're outmatched," Bell finished for him. "I know. Send a message to the Council fleet. Request a dialogue." The message was sent, but the Council ships maintained their silence. They had taken up a blockade formation, clearly intending to intercept the returning human fleet with its Lyrian passengers. In her office below the command center, Bell met with diplomatic advisor Peter Miller. The thin, nervous man paced as he spoke. "We should consider surrendering the Lyrians," he said. "The Council might be lenient if we acknowledge our error and turn them over." Bell fixed him with a cold stare. "These people risked their lives to save others who needed help. We're not going to abandon them now." Miller stopped pacing. "Admiral, you don't understand what we're facing. The Council could destroy us if they choose. They have technology we can barely comprehend." "I understand perfectly well," Bell said firmly. "But some things are worth standing for, even against impossible odds." As the human fleet approached Earth, tension grew on every ship. The Lyrians, now aware of the danger, were deeply troubled. Elder Vizon called a meeting with Captain Nash and Commander Foster aboard the Liberty. "You have risked too much for us already," Vizon said, his crystal form dimmed with concern. "We cannot ask you to risk your homeworld as well." "You didn't ask," Olivia said. "We offered." Alan nodded in agreement. "This isn't just about your people anymore, Elder. It's about what kind of civilization we want to be. One that stands by while others suffer, or one that helps those in need, whatever the cost." Vizon was silent for a moment. "My people have much to learn from yours," he finally said, "if we survive this encounter." On the bridge of the Council flagship, Supreme Kithara watched the approaching human fleet with multiple eyes that blinked in a rhythmic pattern. The tall, multi-limbed alien had ruled the Council for 3 centuries, guiding galactic policy with cold logic and ruthless efficiency. "The humans show no signs of changing course," reported a subordinate. "As expected," Kithara said. "Their behavior is predictably irrational. Open a direct channel to their fleet." Throughout the human ships, screens lit up with the image of Supreme Kithara. The alien's voice was translated into a flat, mechanical tone. "Humans of Earth, you have violated the natural order. The strong survive, the weak perish. This is the way of the universe. Surrender the Lyrians to us immediately or face extinction alongside them." On the horizon, Captain Olivia Nash took a deep breath before responding. She knew her words would speak for all humanity in this crucial moment. "This is Captain Olivia Nash of Earth. We reject your natural order. Where we come from, strength, is measured by how many you can save, not how many you can sacrifice." A murmur of approval went through the bridge crew. Kyle gave her a subtle thumbs up from his station. "You are outnumbered and outgunned," Kithara stated. "Your defiance is illogical." "Maybe so," Olivia replied. "But it's who we are." The Council fleet began to move into attack formation. On Earth's orbital platforms, defense systems came online, ready for a battle they could not win. Admiral Bell gave the order for all civilians to move to underground shelters. Then something unexpected happened. Throughout the human fleet, the Lyrians began to connect their containment units to ship systems. Elder Vizon had organized it quietly, working with Amy Jackson to coordinate the effort across all vessels. "What are they doing?" Alan asked, watching as Lyrian units throughout the Liberty lit up with increasing brightness. Amy's voice came through, on the comm. "Sir, the Lyrians are linking their crystalline networks. They're creating a massive, distributed computing system using their own bodies. The Lyrians, with their natural ability to store and process information, were turning themselves into the most powerful computer network ever created. They accessed the Council's communication protocols, decoded them in seconds, and began broadcasting. Every ship in the galaxy, every communication device on every Council world suddenly displayed the truth. Recordings of Council meetings where species were deemed evolutionarily redundant, the cold calculations that decided which civilizations lived and which were left to die. The deliberate policy of keeping emotional species like humans from joining the galactic community. And alongside these damning records, they broadcast the story of their rescue. How humans, a species the Council had rejected 3 times, had risked everything to save strangers. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Across the galaxy, other species who had faced similar treatment from the Council responded. Ships from dozens of non-Council worlds began appearing near Earth, standing with the humans and Lyrians. Many were from civilizations that had lost sister colonies or related species to the Council's policy of natural selection. On the Council flagship, Supreme Kithara watched in disbelief as the fleet's communications officer reported incoming transmissions from Council member worlds. "Multiple Council representatives are questioning our actions," the officer said, a note of shock in his voice. "Some are threatening to withdraw from the Council if we attack Earth." Kithara's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. For the first time, in 3 centuries, the Supreme faced something unexpected, a moral rebellion within the perfectly logical system it had created. The Council fleet stood down. In the weeks that followed, a new alliance formed. Not based on technological advancement or evolutionary superiority, but on mutual aid and respect for all sentient life. Earth, once considered too primitive for galactic politics, became the headquarters of this new alliance. The Lyrians settled on Earth and its colonies, their crystalline bodies eventually adapting to their new home. Their perfect memories and information processing abilities made them natural historians and teachers. Elder Vizon, standing beside Admiral Bell at the signing of the Alliance Charter, offered a simple truth that became its first principle. The measure of civilization is not in its power to destroy, but in its will to save. The Lyrians had been abandoned by the galaxy, only to be saved by the last ones they expected. In return, they helped humanity change the course of galactic history, creating a new order based not on cold calculation, but on compassion. And across the stars, species that had lived in fear of being deemed redundant looked to Earth with hope, and to humans with newfound respect. The ones the Council had rejected had become the ones who would lead the galaxy into a better future.